Hello and welcome to Lord Havoc's Marvel Champions Custom Content Extravaganza. I have another creator spotlight for you this episode. I'm very excited because it's a fellow Aussie. I get to hear the classic Aussie accent. Some people say that I don't have much of an Aussie accent, which is kind of disappointing because I've lived here all my life. But the person I'm speaking to now definitely does have one, and it's music to my ears, I've got to tell you. It is, of course, the one and only Hainz3y. How you doing, dude?
Yeah, pretty good. How you doing yourself?
I'm doing good. I'm stoked for this. G'day, mate. Ship on the Barbie. We got to do all of them. I won't be able to help myself. Not that we even need to say any of that crap anyway. But
That's right.
this is a much requested spotlight, Hazy. I don't know if you know just how many fans you've got. So I know there's going to be a lot of people very excited for this episode, and I am too, because you're like a legend of the community. So the chance to talk to you is very exciting.
I appreciate that. I feel like the praise is probably sung high and by a lot of people who have much larger content libraries than me, but that's fine.
It's not about
the quantity.
Yeah, exactly.
It's about the quality.
Exactly. Thank you very much. It's about how good it is. Especially, of course, you're a much-loved beast. But before we get into that, in your creations and stuff like that, your work, could you please do an introduction for yourself?
Yeah, so I'm Hainz3y. I live as close to the bottom of the world as you can before you fall off it in Tasmania. There are like 12 people who live here, and we definitely aren't all related. I got into Marvel Champions at release. Me and my friends, primarily it was our D&D group, but we also played quite a bit of Marvel Legendary on the side. We had pretty much all the expansions that released for that up until Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. And that was when Champs came out. And we're like, oh yeah, we'll get it, we'll try it. You know, probably won't get that into it because, you know, we're fairly entrenched in Legendary being our Marvel game of choice. Sat down. I think the hero that we didn't play in the core box because there was 4 of us was Iron Man.
Okay.
Shuffled up, played. After that first game, we all looked at each other and said, "Oh no, we are in danger. Our wallets are about to be empty." And I think we've played maybe 3 games of Legendary since, and it's just been Champs as the game of choice for that play group ever since.
That's fair. That's awesome. How
How
often does your play group meet up?
When the core box first came out, because I was in college at the time and everyone else was sort of, you know, we're all of about that same age when that came out. I think we used to play probably every day of the week, probably about 4 or 5 hours from 10:30 to 3 in the morning.
Cool.
We had to buy a second core box because when we bought the game, we were like, oh yeah, you know, we're not going to play it that much. We don't need to sleeve up. And then we didn't sleeve up for a while, and the cards just got absolutely wrecked.
Sleeve your cards, people.
Yeah, absolutely. Also, sleeve your first player token.
Yeah,
that thing gets moved around a lot.
That's good advice. I like that. If only you could sleeve the HP dials.
Oh, we use spin downs.
Oh, good. That's good.
Apart for the villain, mostly just because we find it easier to see with our table set up. It's because of the depth of field that you get as you're looking across the table. Sometimes it's hard to see how many hit points your friends are on. So, but yeah,
I love how you called it a spin down. It's like a Magic the Gathering player.
Absolutely.
It's just a D20, man.
Oh, well,
I love Magic threw the name spin down on it. Everybody was like, "Oh, I'm gonna get these spin downs." It's like, surely you're a D&D player. Surely you've already got like 10 D20s.
Yeah, but whilst you know that the opposite side's going to add up to 21, I don't have time in my life to be able to flick around and find where the 13 is. Okay. I just want to be able to move it 2 notches and I'm good. But
fair enough.
I got into custom content creation about the time of Galaxy's Most Wanted.
Cool.
I'd interacted with the community a little bit before, hadn't posted anything, but sort of came in, looked at a few things, came left. If you have a look at Gates of Valhalla with everything open, I think I pop up 8 or 9 times. So it took me a while to actually stick.
Cool.
But once we played one game I can't remember who the villain was, but I was playing Hulk, and my two friends were playing Doctor Strange and Captain Marvel.
Cool.
Um, Man, that game was rough.
Why?
Uh,
Yeah, Doctor Strange. Surely you won within 5 minutes.
oh, three-player math works a little differently.
Yeah.
That game took, I think it was a 3.5 hour game because we fought one of the hardest scenarios. And I just remember that the scenario, it might have been Claw because obviously face hits have the chance to exhaust you. Might
Mm,
have been Red Skull just because Tough was going off and he's got Biddle Rivals to exhaust you. It was one of those two, but I can't remember exactly.
right.
But I remember saying, like, in terms of the power scale, while they have different power sets, we should all be feeling like we're playing pretty powerfully here. We should, this should
Mm,
be an easy game.
yeah.
And I just remember every turn was like, oh man, oh, this is unfortunate. I can't do anything
Mm,
because I got exhausted or because I'm stunned and I'm exhausted. And Strange is like, oh, don't worry, I can change that stun to a tough. But it's like, yeah, but I still can't do the thing. And it just sort of, as it kept going, I was like, man, I'm not getting the feeling like I've got with the other heroes where I am Hulk right now. And I know that, the Hulk conversation's been beaten to death, but that's what got me into constant creation. I was like, well, I should feel like I'm there. So I had a look
yeah.
around to see if there was anything else. And then eventually that spot spun off into my first creation, which was Scar. So, yeah.
Okay, cool. So you've got some. So you didn't do your alterations. You've got some sort of hero enhancement packs as well. Were they not your first ones?
Uh, it might have been the She-Hulk one first. I
Right.
can't quite remember which order that came in. I know the Hulk rework came a lot later because I was mostly trying to find like other people's takes on it because I was
Mm,
like, it's going to be a lot of work to try and tweak this. But eventually we bit the bullet and did it anyway. Not because we didn't find one that we didn't like. Like Rainey's Hulk is awesome, and there are so many Hulk creations on the server that are wicked as well. But yeah. So I think it was Scar and She Hulk were like the first two.
all right. Well, so Scar was your first official, fully created hero. Let's whip him out and have a look. Very exciting. So Scar is Hulk's son. Yeah, from the
Yeah, that's correct.
World War Hulk.
Hulk and Kyera.
Right.
Basically, when Hulk's ship blew up I think that was just at the start of the World War Hulk storyline. Kyera used the old power to protect her womb and not herself, so she died. And then Hulk wanted to go and kill the Illuminati.
Yeah.
But unfortunately, that meant that Hulk left his kids behind to fend for themselves. And then you get this Conan the Barbarian-esque Hulk, which is just really awesome.
Cool. So he's your first one. What do you think? Is there anything that you would what do you what do you like about it? What do you don't like?
So the thing that I like about it is it it feels like the design's very based on the original Hulk. Like you've got the two double resource cards. His attack event's not really, but like the thing that mm, he's showing his age a bit, I guess you'd say.
Right.
Like if you have a look at the attack event there, Scar Slash,
Yeah.
while it does eventually get a discount on it, and the numbers are like fairly solid, I do feel like it's not telling me a lot about the character other than he likes weapons, but he specifically likes his weapons. So
Gotcha.
I really really like the design of Savagery. At the time, a 3 attack hero having an onboard ready was not a thing.
Mm.
And I was like, well, I don't just want to make it so that you just get to ready forever because that's quite good, especially once you combo that with his sword and end up getting to 4 attack.
Yeah.
But his whole thing is like he wants to fight, he wants to kill minions. And then I can't remember like what the name of the run is, but it's the run where like Galactus is coming to Sakaar to consume it, and Kyera's trying to convince Scar to like, you got to try and save these people, but he's just so busy just wanting to fight Galactus that he doesn't really do that. So if you flip Kyera over, she flips into a absolutely ridiculous minion.
Cool.
Because in the story, once she's continues to not help the people of Sakaar, she's like, all right, I'm gonna have to teach you a lesson, and Daddy's gonna beat up on you. And I was just like, oh, I want that story element in this set. So, like, if you start killing too many minions, which is what the set is designed to do, eventually Mum will get angry, and then you lose your hand size buff. But then once you you learn your lesson and you access the old power, you get a very powerful onboard upgrade to compensate. So, like, I love the narrative of the set more so than I love the design of it now, I would say.
Cool.
But I don't want to make any changes to him because it's always important to know where you've sort of started from your design and where you're moving to. I know some designers like to go back and like, oh, I'll update this for the modern design sensibilities, but I think it's important to have that time capsule there to be like, okay, here's where I was, this is where I'm going.
That's interesting. So you won't go back. When's the hard cutoff point where you won't go back and change something?
Well, I've recently made some tweaks to the thing. By that, I've like cut and shot one card and tweaked another one. He's been comfortable for probably about a year and a half now, I'd say. Once I've tested them a little bit myself, I put them out to the public. Sometimes you'll get the feedback, sometimes you won't. Like Beast, once he was released, got a lot of positive feedback straight away.
Yep.
Whereas, some of the other sets maybe don't get as much attention up front, but that's fine. My philosophy for that is design for yourself first.
Yep.
And if other people want to engage with it, that's awesome.
Cool.
But because I've got that in-person play group, I always know my stuff's going to get played by at least 3 people. So that's fine. Like, yeah, there's not necessarily a hard and fast rule on that, but like once they feel like they're done, you sit down and play, it's like, it's hitting that design goal of feeling like the hero when I play it, and it's not an unfun play pattern.
Yeah.
I'm happy to just let it ride. So yeah.
Awesome. All right. Well, let's segue into Beast. I mean, I want to really deep dive into Beast. He's the one.
If we only talk about Beast for this whole showcase, I'm fine with that.
Yeah,
I love this.
That's exactly what I thought. It's just this is the one that gets the most attention, and people just absolutely just adore this hero. Just absolutely adore it. And I want to talk about how, like, why exactly is this the one that gets all of your attention out of all of them? Because I'll be honest with you, actually, my favorite of yours is actually Thin. So let's.
Oh, wicked!
But I like that. Doesn't mean I don't like Beast. I'd be kicked out of the community if I said I didn't like Beast. But I like Beast too. But I really want to deep dive into this, and I want to. We've already touched on it a bit in terms of your design philosophy and sort of like, doing like tweaks and all that sort of stuff, which I really love. I really like that idea. That's really cool. I mean, you got to know when to stop, right? Otherwise, you just keep tweaking. Otherwise, you become George Lucas and you just keep changing everything and just stuffing it all up.
That's exactly right. Or worse, you only make the one creation and then people don't have the chance to stumble on your stuff if they don't like that character.
Yeah. So.
And
exactly.
Like at a certain. Yeah. So yeah. So Beast came about when Mutant Genesis was announced.
Yeah.
It was before it was released or anything. But I'm not the biggest X-Men fan in the world. Like. I like some of their stories, but I tend to feel like the Krakoa era I didn't really vibe with at all. I just think that having everyone sort of come back as they want removes a lot of the stakes that you can have in terms of like character deaths and stuff.
Yeah.
So I was like, look, I need to get myself excited because if we've got the X-Men license, we're going to have it for at least 2 years. It turns out it was 3. But so I was like, oh, who do I make? Nightcrawler's my favorite X-Man, but there's already so many good ones on the server that I'm not really going to make a point of difference.
Yeah.
And then I played Hainz3y2's Beast a couple of times, and I really like the set, but there are just some things with it that didn't make it, so I felt like I can't put my own stamp on this at all. Like, I feel like if Hainz3y2 made it now, the blueprint cards would just be 3 extra set-aside ones, rather than making the in-deck 15 rather than 12. That might not be his philosophy, but I kind of feel like it did hamstring where you could get some of the feeling of the character across. So I spent a lot of time thinking like, well, how do I make this different? I still want the feeling of having something brewing in the background and eventually, you put it into play, but I don't just want to copy what Hainz3y2 did where I have just some set-aside upgrades that I eventually flip. I need to put my own stamp on it. And I got to thinking like, how do I do that? And I was like, well, his feet are hands.
Yep.
How do I do something with that? How do I make that feel like that's something? I was like, well, I could have 2 hands. But that's surely too good. So then that's how the reserve was born, where it's like, okay, I need to find a way to make it different and not just so that I'm going to play the game with 2 sets of 10 cards, like 2 sets of 5 cards, I should say, and just absolutely out-tempo the game every time I play it.
Yeah. So it's the two hands thing. Can we sort of deep dive into that? So there's a massive insert, and
Yeah.
most of the time, and this is, I mean, please take this as intended, but most of the time when you see an insert with this much wordage on it, there's a problem. So there's an issue
Yeah.
here. But it's not for this one. You need this amount. You need this because you got the rule clarifications, which I love. This is when you like get rule clarifications that are very specific. Great, because then there's no bloody argument. It's just here it is in black and white. This is what happens if this happens. And it makes perfect sense. But the out of play area might be a bit much for some people. So can we sort of deep dive into the reserve, how it functions, and why you did it that way?
Well, the thing that I went with when I made it was the concept's going to be really simple. It's a second hand that doesn't interact with your hand. And you give someone that elevator pitch, and they can okay, I know 90% of what's going on here. But how does it, whenever I see a custom set where the rules don't quite line up with how the rules reference guide's written, this might be just because of how much I play with Veril and, you know, they're our rules person. So when we play our games, you'd know that it's happening by the book.
Yep.
I was like, we need to make sure that we answer these questions correctly so that people don't have to send us a message every time they play the set, how does this work? Because you'll bounce off that straight away. It's important to make sure that people know how the cards work so they can play the cards. So yeah, like that, it just sort of came from that, and I was like, okay, well, the word, it needs to have a limit because you can't just have cards banking up forever, so we sort of stole the wording from the ally limit. The lack of combination between the two just made it so that there was a restriction, so that he wasn't just a 6-hand size hero with good stats. And then, yeah, it's the specifics came up either from people asking those exact questions or in play when people I was playing with asked, oh, can you deal with that? I said, oh, well, if I do it this way, I can. If I do it this way, I can't. They're like, oh, okay, cool. So there are actually, you know, checks and balances here, so you can't just steamroll anything that's got a requirement like that. So yeah, that's not necessarily a super in-depth analysis of it, but it was, again, it was always going to be more wording just to get to that elevator pitch of, you got two hands, but they don't cross.
Yep. And why the two hero cards? Why not just have one hero card with both teams on it?
So that came from feedback in the latest sealing process. So originally it was just the one card with the two traits. And it was that way for the longest time. But that was, like I said, he was designed before Mutant Genesis was even released, so we didn't know what the X-Men support was going to look like. Had I known that it was going to be some of the best cards in the game, I probably would have just given him the X-Men trait, not worried about the Avenger thing, but I think it's important to reflect that part of the character's history in the set because, you know, he was part of I think it was the West Coast Avengers, right, for ages?
Yep.
And yeah, so like I wanted it to have both, just to also give him maybe a few more tools in terms of his deck building. But I think the community got it right when they said, it's feeling like it's a bit much.
Interesting. Okay, all right. So you're not just particularly anti two teams on a card. You just
I think when you start getting 4 traits across the top, it starts looking a bit much, unless you're doing it deliberately, like Hax's Deadpool, where he has like all the traits in the world and it's incredible. But I do think that you should try and focus the team compositions where you can to like maybe 2 or 3, because otherwise you just wind up with too many options in deck building and it just gets too hard to make a deck in a reasonable amount of time.
Right, which means you could have had Avenger and X-Men on the same card. So
I could have, absolutely.
It's more of a power thing for you. For that.
Yeah, it's more of a power thing there because, again, the X-Men support is so strong, and once we swing back around to the Avenger wave, we don't really know what support they're going to get.
All right.
But yeah, it's just more so just a future-proofing thing, so I don't have to go back and then tweak the set and then do it again. It's like, I made the decision to keep it together, and yeah, it's still past the ceiling, but now it is too good because there's a combination with two cards that aren't supposed to be played together in the same deck that all of a sudden can be. So
right. Now, what about the minimum deck size is 45 cards? Where did that come from?
So that came from, I wanted Beast to feel like, I wanted him to be slow to start, but strong in the end game. because you needed to feel like you were spending time in the lab, brewing up your stuff in the background, and then eventually that comes to fruition, and now you're really strong because you've made the thing that is going to counter the villain. So the easiest way I thought of to slow down how quickly you get fully built is just make it so there's more cards in the deck. Now, it's a bit, that design philosophy is a bit paradoxical with how his abilities work because you're drawing a lot of extra cards and putting them in. So it was also a limiter to make sure you didn't like deck out faster than I wanted you to. So you just keep getting extra encounter cards. But from a non-gameplay perspective and from a deck building perspective, I think too many people hamstring themselves to, I must run a 40 card deck.
Okay.
And this is one way that I had to sort of try and look, you can, because I run pretty much exclusively 50 card decks now.
Wow.
I can't think of the last time that I ran a tight 40, mostly because the card pool is so big and I can have so much redundancy for card effects that if I want to remove threat, I'm almost better. Again, this comes from playing at 3 players where you want to specialize your deck a bit more. If I want to remove threat, I want as many threat removal options as I can have. So when I draw a hand, I've got at least one. And, you know,
But
it
the
also
flip side
comes
of that
with...
is you also then you're less likely to get the card that you need because you've got more cards that you have to shift through.
But that only comes up if the cards don't serve the same purpose. So I might not have cleared the area, but if I've got multitasking, I only needed to remove 2 threat from that scheme, and I've got another way to get that done. I'm good.
Yeah, so more cards means you're more likely to get the card that's related to your particular role in the game.
Exactly. So, and especially because, in other games, you're only drawing 1 card a turn, so it makes sense to run to your minimum deck size so that you are getting that tool that you need because you've probably only got 4 or 3 copies of that tool. If half of my deck is a thwart event and I'm the Justice player, doesn't matter what one I'm drawing so long as it can target the scheme that I want it to target. So you just need to have enough spread in your effects between Crisis Averted and even the odds or something like that, depending on what you want. But if you cram them full, you'll draw the thing that you need when you need it. So it's just there to try and have people explore a different way to think about the game because the way that you draw your hand in this game is different to every other game.
Yeah.
And, a lot of the times people have a hard time pivoting away from that because they're like, the competition element means I want my deck to be as efficient as possible.
Yeah.
The thing about this game is you don't really have to play to maximum efficiency to win a lot of the time. You just have to play efficient enough. So yeah, that's
interesting.
That's where that came from.
This is years of experience, folks. This is gold we're throwing out here. Gold.
Oh look, take it with a bar of soap. It worked for me. Might not work for other people.
It works. I love it. It's completely anti everything I've learnt over the years. So you've also got Hainz3y and the aforementioned thing, who I quite like the whole clobber aspect because it just doesn't mean just his clobbers. It means the actual card called clobber, which I think is quite clever. Mystique and the Warriors 3 and stuff. Out of all of your sort of creations, that as in your heroes, who's your favorite hero?
I'd probably have to go with Hainz3y.
Cool.
So Hainz3y came about when Veril and I were on a call in the early hours of the Australian evening. We were just talking. They were like, "Look, I've made this Hainz3y set ages ago, and the whole design gimmick is basically Star-Lord before Star-Lord came out, and I'm just not really happy with it." Right. And I sort of took a look at what they'd made, and I was like, "I think there's something here that I haven't seen the other Hainz3ys do. Cool. So let's just take a couple of hours, look at it, and see what we can have come up." So Hainz3y's whole gimmick of having the Void come and counter all the hard work that he's done once he takes control is reflected in the Nemesis set being shuffled in the deck at setup, and Hainz3y discarding cards from the encounter deck as part of the costs for his effects. But if he discards a card from his Nemesis set, it gets dealt to him as a face-down encounter card.
Right.
So every time you're using your powers, you've got the chance to pull the Void in. And I specifically want to make reference to the 3 test treacheries in the encounter set. I think that this is probably where the design came through to actually make the set worth playing. So these treacheries have the obligation text where they get given specifically to you, and you have to make a choice. But if the void's in play, you don't get to make a choice. You just have a bad time.
Right.
So like you get his cards are all fairly strong. They're maybe a little vanilla, but they're very good at what they do. And the tempo offset comes from having to deal with these Nemesis cards, and you're either paying attacks or having to fight a very tough minion. And then, so the games never go too much longer or too much shorter, assuming that you are able to pass your tests. But other than that, you get to feel like, okay, I'm playing a Superman level powerful character here. I'm doing bits. I just got to hope that I don't accidentally kill the whole team.
Interesting. Okay. Cool. That's a fascinating concept. The encounter stuff. I'm not a big fan of heroes like Star-Lord and encounter deck things that sort of affect you and stuff. But it seems it works from what you've described. It works.
Yeah.
It works all right here.
And that's sort of where we landed on it as well. I was like, I'd love playing Star-Lord if I could have an option to have, like, not buy into the extra encounter card stuff. If I could do it optionally on a few turns here and there. But the hero is so designed around using everything every turn. It just completely shifts how everyone has to play the game, and you end up sort of stealing focus a bit because you've got to protect Star-Lord because he's dealing with all the extra stuff that he's bringing in. So we wanted to have an option on these cards where it's not just they come in and they just constantly keep wrecking you. There's only so many that'll happen in a deck cycle unless you're an absolute masochist and shuffle your stuff back in with Lindy.
Yeah.
I don't advise that, but I also, like, if people want to do that with their friends, that's cool.
It depends on how much you like your friends.
That's right. And like when I used to play with Stranger Danger, he used to absolutely love busted Nemesis sets. It's
They
yeah,
definitely add a new dimension for sure.
Oh, absolutely.
All right. You've got your mansion attack here as well. Is this just as a redo of the official mansion attack? Is it?
So it's basically an enhancement pack like the hero sets are, but for a scenario. Now I've got a couple of these that aren't on the mod. ES asked me to help redesign Ronin, Nebula, Collector 1, and I think there might have been another one, but I can't quite remember it off the top of my head now.
Yes.
But I deliberately didn't make Marvel reskins of those.
Yeah. Just
so people would go and experience the DC stuff for those who were hesitant.
Yeah.
So yeah, with that one, I was like, we got Avalanche and the +1 attack environment, like main scheme to start with, and it just made it not a fun play experience. So that's designed around changing up the villains and the main schemes a little more frequently, so that your per game variance is higher, but you're like still experiencing the scenario in a reasonable amount of time. And now I see you've pulled out the favorite thing that I've made, period.
Oh wow, okay. Well, that answers the next question then. Was what's your favorite thing ever? All right, let's talk about Waking Nightmare then.
Okay, so Nightmare came about from absolutely loving the Nemesis set as a concept, and then the game just not doing anything with it for the longest time. I absolutely love Standard 3. I only play with Standard 3 now.
Okay.
But the whole gimmick was like, okay, we've got I think it was when Whispers in Paranoia came out in Sinmo. We've got some cards that reference the Nemesis set. I want to build a set around it.
Yep.
And then I watched the Hulk Where Monsters Dwell animated movie, and I was like, okay, Nightmare seems like he'd be a good fit for that sort of a thing.
Yeah.
So yeah, the general consensus is you start fighting Ultron without an encounter deck.
Okay.
And you start there, things seem weird, and then you either beat Ultron or you don't, and depending on what happens there depends on how Nightmare starts his scenario. Because the whole thing is he had you in the Dreamlands, and he was just making it feel like you were fighting Ultron.
Love it.
Then he'll start using his Dream resource, which is on the flip side of the Ultron drones environment there. Because one thing I wanted it to shake up what he cared about, so that deck building couldn't just solve his problem. So you've got that variance in there where, like, he's going to ask you to do a thing, but what that is going to change from turn to turn. And yeah, so eventually you either beat stage 2 without becoming the Master of Fear, and then you have a bad time because he's just got so much health. Or you play into the main scheme stage 3's ability of defeating your nemesis and removing them from the game to unlock the Master of Fear, which is still my most fun experience, seeing people flip that card over for the first time and reading its text box. Retaliate 31 is a hell of a drug.
Wow. This is pretty cool.
Cool. The Dreamstalker minion there, that was inspired by Chris Nash's Red Ghost scenario. I helped him test that once or twice, and he had all of Red Ghost Super Apes attached to the villain. I was like, that's a really cool way to make it so it's engaged with everyone and make it feel like they're more of a cohesive unit.
Yeah.
And I was like, well, if he's going to ride his horse, he should attach the horse to himself.
Yeah, makes perfect sense, right?
Yeah. So just a little bit of a shout out there to Chris. I think that's, it was a really cool design concept, and like every good Australian, I'm going to steal everything that I think should belong to me that isn't out there.
Love it. Cool, awesome. We got some stuff over here. We got Darksiders.
Yeah, how familiar are you with the Darksiders franchise?
Yeah, I've played the game.
Yeah, the thing that made me want to like make this set was when I found out that Joe Mad's original pitch, when he said we should play the 4 Horsemen of the Apocalypse, he wasn't actually talking about this horseman. He was talking about Apocalypse's horseman from Marvel.
Right.
And the rest of the design team just wasn't familiar with it, so they were like, "Oh, that sounds like a really cool way." And then it just pivoted hard left from where he'd originally intended it to go.
Right.
And I was like, "That's, it's got that comic tie. I absolutely love the franchise. I can't wait for when we eventually get that game that they promised where we'll play as all the Horsemen. If it'll ever come or not, I don't know, but I know that you can play all 4 of them in Marvel Champions, and so long as you pick the right modulars and scenario, it all sort of comes together well. Don't play with standard 3 with these heroes. They were not designed for the Nemesis sets are quite strong because the hero sets are quite strong. Yeah. And if we have a look at Straga there, I think that hit point value sort of reflects why you shouldn't do that.
Right.
That's actually not as bad as I remember it being. I thought it was a flat 15.
No.
I thought it was a flat 15.
I mean, 4 boosts is a bit painful, but yeah.
Yeah. So I really, really like that. From like a personal standpoint, I think the designs all still work really well. It's just the art style difference because it's all either screenshots from the game, or for Strife where he hasn't had his own game, I had to take a couple of like cinematics where they are an animated art style, but it does stand out a bit, but I still love the sets.
Okay, cool. You've got some team ups. What, you got a team up here?
I've got 2 team ups, I think.
Exchange,
I've got
Wet Work. I like that. Black Widow and Hawkeye. When a status card is removed from an enemy, discard Wet Work. Grab that enemy status card. That's cool.
Yeah, just little thing. I don't think Hammer Exchange technically works, but just do like what they did with Rogue and just have it work. Because at the time they hadn't specified that you couldn't pay costs with cards you don't control, so I was like, I could play Jane and Thor together and we could start throwing hammers around. It'll be really cool. But yeah, it just works. It just works.
And we've got Bane here. Is this your only DC hero?
It is my only DC hero. I love DC. I've spent a lot of time giving ES and Beretta and some other DC creators feedback on their stuff because it's really cool. My problem is I feel like a lot of those characters have been done better than I could do them, so I haven't really had an idea that stands out enough to do it. And then I was like, oh, well, that's because I've been focusing so much on traditional heroes. Yeah. And I think it was around the time that Scorp was making his Deadshot that I was like, awesome. I could do a Bane.
That's cool.
So yeah, his whole gimmick is he's got a lot of different ways you can take his deck building, mostly because the character is like, he's a bit paradoxical. A lot of people who are familiar with him only through like, Batman and Robin, where he was in name only, might think, oh, he's just a strong dumb guy. No, he's really smart, and there's a reason he broke the bat. Yeah. So I wanted to reflect that in his set. Again, sort of, he's a little slow to start if you don't pick the right things, and is a little bit complicated because his core mechanics based off proliferate from Magic,
Yeah.
just for a specific counter type instead. Yeah,
How does
he's
proliferate work?
well, proliferate in Magic is you just any type of counter you can put another counter on it. Whereas
Oh, I
for
see.
him for formulate, it'll tell you what you put. I think it's on the Venom pack and his mastermind there. You'll place a counter specifically on that upgrade, and then any other upgrade that you control that has that type of counter, you put an additional counter on. So the the design conceit for him was enhanced physique is a card that has such like it's evoking so much of what I want Bane to do, but it's just such a non-card. How do I make that into a set?
Okay, I
So
see.
that's why.
So you put a counter on Venom Pack. It's a physical one. That means you can put it on this one as well. That also uses physical ones.
Does he use
It doesn't
physical
say that.
counters? The Venom Injector does.
Venom Injector. Ah, okay, here we go.
Yeah, he uses two physical
Uses
counters.
two
So
physical counters.
I,
Yeah, got it.
yeah, so he'll basically you use that to fuel your Venom steroids. You then get jacked. Your attack gets bigger. Your thwart gets smaller. If you run out of thwart, you start taking damage and you start beating guys up. Or you can go the mastermindy. I'm going to release all of everything out of Arkham Asylum so Batman gets weak, so that I can break him once he's worn out.
Hmm.
And you can start, doing some encounter manipulation because ultimately I think that was the best way to try and reflect his power set is you work for me now. I am stronger than the villain. I'm going to literally strong arm you into working for me.
Yeah.
I know some people don't like that the strong armed can target elite minions. Uh, my advice to that is don't play the card on a minion that will break the scenario unless you want to live up to Bane's reputation and literally break the scenario.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Good point.
But yeah, he went through the sealing process but didn't make it through. Mostly because there's a lot of custom keywords in the set. I think there's 7 in total between icons and that got added. It's just a
Yeah.
lot of mental overhead for a new player to learn. Whereas when you've been playing with all the DC stuff for a while, it's all just incremented on itself. I didn't want to change it, so I thought it's best to leave that for someone to stumble on and find later. But yeah, he's
I like how you credited the original creators of those keywords. That's good. That's
oh,
very
it's
cool.
you got to give credit where it's due. People work hard,
Yeah.
and they deserve to have their names called out when they use, when they've inspired you.
I respect. So very cool. All right.
Yeah,
I'm going to move on to Armored.
yeah,
Which
sure
is
thing.
it's on its own mod. Is there anything from here that we missed that you wanted to just talk about?
Um, no, I think we covered it all. I don't think we need to go into too much detail on the FFG reworks. Like, it's a good way if you're learning custom content creation. Look at an FFG set that you like, but you don't think is quite there, and just make some tweaks. Great way to get wet your toes, so to speak.
So that's your idea for sort of when you're first getting started into customs is to sort of tweak an original one and see where you go.
I, I think it can be overwhelming doing something completely from scratch for the first time. You've got to sort of build up that experience a little bit. Now, it's not the same for everyone. You might have played the game for so long that you understand everything and nothing excites you on that space. But if you're thinking, I want to make something, but I don't know where I'd start, that's a way to at least make your first thing so you get bit by the bug and keep going.
Awesome. That's great advice. Cool. So you've got your own custom aspect that you made with some friends of yours, some fellow creators.
Yeah. So it
I
was
have absolute respect for anybody that goes to the effort to make an aspect back. It's pretty amazing stuff. But who are the people that helped you with this?
So the original idea came from EK August. He was going to make Armored on his own,
Yep.
and Veril, Unicorn, Rainy, and I all got talking one night just about design. We're like, oh man, we can't wait for when this Armored stuff releases from EK. And then we just got so excited that we reached out to him and was like, hey, are you happy for us to collaborate on this with you? And he's like, absolutely. And that's where Armored was born. So we had the design philosophy of Armored is you build a suit. So anyone can sort of be Iron Man and do the thing where you steal that suit for that one issue run and you are Iron Man but also have other powers. So you've got the 5 slots, or the 6 slots there, I should say, when you combine it with reactors, or is it only 5? It's only
2, 3,
5.
4, 5. Yep.
So yeah, you've got 5 slots that are mutually exclusive. You can build around one specific armor or mix and match your armor pieces to your heart's desire. So like you could have the Hulkbuster boots with like Rescue's chassis, and you basically build to beat the scenario based on what's going to throw at you. But because a lot of the stuff is more upgrade focused, you should be slow. Oh, it was 6 mods were hidden. I forgot that it hides that tag. There's that memory. Okay, but yeah, it's like the aspect's probably not super well balanced at the minute. I think that as we were designing cards, we got more and more focused on what was cool rather than this is an aspect that probably shouldn't have the power level of some hero cards.
Right.
But we're more than happy to receive feedback from people on if they play it and say, "Oh, look, this card feels like it's a bit overtuned," and look at it and say, "Yeah, you're right. We'll make some changes." But yeah, it was a really fun experience trying to build an aspect that had 2 economies in your resources and then the charge counters that are a part of it and moving those around. It's a very tactile experience when you're playing it in paper. You do a lot of stuff on your turn that maybe results in not as much return on investment as you would expect, but I think it hits that theme of raiding Tony's armory or having him build a suit for you, and yeah, it's really fun.
Wow. The whole concept behind this is awesome. But as a fellow Aussie, I have to rebuke you. Why is it? Where's the you?
The U is the friends we made along the way.
Good answer. Good answer.
Yeah, there were. I think EK's Australian as well, so there were 3 Australians on the design team, but we sort of assumed that the community in large is probably more American focused, so we'll go with that spelling.
I can't do it.
I don't
man.
necessarily agree with that.
I'm too stubborn. I'm too stubborn. It's
it completes the word, doesn't it? It completes the word that you.
I know. Just looking at it annoys me. But the actual pack itself, this is just an amazing concept. I just love just the very idea of it. I was first introduced to this when I was playing a game. It was someone who was playing Sonic and Armored. So yeah.
Oh, that's an interesting combination, isn't it?
Sonic just going mental, just mental. I mean, he's pretty powerful already as he is, but he was doing like 5 attacks a turn, and it's just annihilating. It was just I was like, what's going on?
Improved efficiency on his ready card is absolutely insane, isn't it?
It was unbelievable. And I was like, this is amazing. And I thought the person who was playing Sonic at the time was the one was like involved in it, and he was like, no, it's like its own separate project and stuff. And so check it out. It's just amazing. Just amazing stuff.
Yeah, no, we appreciate that. We worked very hard on it, and because trying to get 5 people in a room to do anything is quite difficult. When they're spread across the world trying to make Marvel Champions, it took us a long time. I want to say, like, the set's been released for a year, almost to the day, purely coincidentally, and I want to say that it took us probably a good 6-8 months getting everything sort of all together and sorted between messaging everyone. So yeah, no.
What does capacity mean?
So capacity is a custom keyword that I made for some cards that aren't on my mod. Basically, it came about when my friend wanted to make a Doomslayer hero that never really got completed. But we wanted to find a way to make it so that we could put ammo on the guns, but you couldn't just have infinite ammo once you use the chainsaw. So it's basically the thing that it uses from Arkham Horror, where it enters with those counters. When it runs out, you don't discard it. And when you when you add counters back to it, it can't have more than the printed number of counters on it. So it's both a limiter and lets the card function.
Isn't there an official way of saying that? Isn't it just says where it enters play with X amount of counters? So if you just don't use the word use, then
if you go with enters play, the problem with that is you can then have 9,000 counters on that card and nothing is stopping it.
Oh, I see.
And it is
right.
It's more words to say enters play with this many counters, and it can't have more than this number of counters. Yeah. Just go capacity.
I love that.
And then
I love that. It's
yeah.
just the simple. Is that part of your design philosophy as well? Sort of making things as simple as possible.
I like to. Yes, because like you shouldn't be hamstrung in designing a card that mechanically is simple to resolve but wordy to explain.
Yes, perfect.
Something like Looking for Trouble.
Yeah.
The effect is super simple, but the design space is limited because I've only got one lines of rule text after I say what to do.
Gotcha.
When you compare that to the custom keyword, seek this specific card,
Yep.
just, it then opens up a ton more design space around that mechanic.
Yep.
Now, I think it does get a little bit awkward when you don't put reminder text anywhere, either on an insert or on one of the cards that does have less rules text.
Yeah, if you make a
Get it
custom
going.
keyword, you got to have text somewhere.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But I tend to try and focus on, like, same with reserve, when they're wider reaching mechanics that other people could use, make them as simple and concise as possible to open up as much design space to those other creators who are going to do something more interesting with it than I ever would.
I applaud you. I completely 100% agree. That is one of my design problems, is I have too many sentences, too many lines. Kami has told me off for that on numerous occasions. It's like, you really shouldn't have 8 would be the absolute maximum, and it really shouldn't be more than 6.
Yeah,
so I try to do that as best I can. Sometimes it's
one of the official cards that's really weird for that is Captain Marvel's Energy Channel. It's got like 10 lines of rules text, but you look at what that card's doing, and like anyone can pass that. So I understand why people have that hard and fast rule, but I think, like with all design, you've got to know when's the time to try and break that rule.
Yeah.
I think that's a good example of when to do that. Is just when the effect is wordier than it should be.
That's when it's a bit of a problem, right? This is great. I really, really love this. I really love it. So, do you have to? I had an idea that was very similar to this, which was based around the very first time I saw there was a customized version of Iron Man where it was just all the official text was all the same, it was identical. It was Iron Man, but it was altered so that the pictures of the images on the cards, so you could actually, when you built the suit out, you built it out to look like Iron Man.
I remember that. Like the arc reactors were.
The arc reactors in the middle, and the helmets where their head should be, and all that sort of stuff, right?
And they like altered the way that the templates were on the gauntlets so that it actually line up.
So it lines up properly.
That was really cool.
Yeah, it's great. Yeah. And so first I saw that, I was like, wow, well, that's how it should have been from the beginning. But anyway, I like the idea of that, and then I sort of thought about it. I was like, what would be a cool idea for armor would be that you can't add the gauntlets until you've already got the torso, and you can't add the boots until you've already got the torso, and the torso doesn't work without the arc reactor and stuff like that. And then I realized that was stupid. I was like, because he uses the gauntlets in the movies and in the comics without the rest of the suit anyway, right? That awesome fight with Winter Soldier when he's just got the gauntlet on.
When he turns his watch into the
gauntlet, and then the shocked look on his face when Bucky tries to shoot him in the face. Just stuff like that. So I was like, well, obviously that doesn't work. And then I was like, you are limiting the fun of this character so much. If you're saying you can't do anything until you have this specific card, it was just one of the worst ideas I've ever had. So I scrapped it, scrapped it completely. And I was like, no, I'm not going down this road. How stupid. But then of course I saw Sonic and saw this, and I was like, This is how it's done. I was like, yes, thank you for doing this.
Yeah, like originally we did sort of have that sort of do we make it so that you need a chassis to play the other things, and it came down to that exact thing that you said. Like, is it going to be fun to have a handful of upgrades that are now stuck in my hand because I don't have a way to find this one piece? And like, I think if you were making a hero set, you could get it to work by making like a set of side deck to the side that makes it so that you find the chassis first, and then like the rest of the deck is randomized, so that the piece that you add onto it is randomized, but you start with that baseline. But like you said,
I prefer your version. I prefer this one. I'm calling it your version because you're the one I'm talking to. But of course, there are. I can't. This is not just EK and everybody else who's involved. Obviously, did a great job. Just amazing. Is there though a limit to not being able to put stuff onto somebody who already has armor? So could Rescue, for example, use the armored aspect?
She absolutely could. You might run into a bit of weird stuff where you might, if Rescue decides to play the Rescue armored stuff, she's got 2 helmets and like 2 chassis.
So
But we were like,
theme takes a back seat.
oh, not so much that. It's like when you think about when Iron Man gets in Hulkbuster, he's a suit and a suit.
Oh, I like that.
So
You're a smart
you
man.
you can have
I love it.
stuff that's sort of either like it might not be the full helmet, but maybe she's integrated a new interface or something else within her existing helmet. Like
I love it.
you can bend over backwards pretty far when it comes to theme with this game to get it to work. So we didn't think that was too jarring to not have it be a thing. In fact, like playing official Iron Man in Armored, you will never have a more fun time in turning cards sideways.
It sounds amazing. Yeah.
Yeah, it's really. Is it too good?
Yeah.
Maybe.
Is it too good? Okay. All right. I don't know, man. I can't
fun.
stand official Iron Man. It just doesn't do it for me at all. I hate it.
I know how much you
usually
don't like
collaborate with.
AEs.
I usually collaborate with a fellow Australian named Joshy, and he plays a really cool Iron Man deck that is just like really, really awesome. So I was thinking I might introduce him to this aspect and see if he wants to add that on to his existing one, and then he'll just
See what madness he can bring
into
the world.
It'll be unbelievable.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah, this is really cool. So, what's your favorite thing about the armored aspect pack?
Oh, probably just like how many, because its design philosophy was kind of meant to be more like colorless in Magic than how Basic is, I guess, because I see Basic more as like your mana base of a Magic deck. It's the stuff that lets the deck function, where base, like, colorless in Magic, you do everything. You probably don't do it on rate, which I think is maybe where some of the design might fall down a bit. I think some of the cards are like too good on rate. But you can fill any solution within this one aspect, and really you're just building around the weaknesses of the other players so that you've got a strong baseline. And then apart from that, it's just finding the fun combinations between suit pieces and seeing what madness you can bring upon the villain and their minions.
Very cool. Like, Iron Spider gets a card. Yay!
Yeah, like one thing with the allies, we've got 2 Tony Starks and 2 Peter Parkers, so the ally pool is even narrower than it first appears. Wow. That is by design. Everyone on the design team hates the ally card type.
Oh. Really?
Yeah.
Really?
I don't like how strong ally cards are in terms of limiting design space of defensive options for aspects that aren't protection. I think, to my knowledge, apart from status cards, we have Test the Defense in Aggression, which, I mean, I'll run it in Cloak and Dagger in Dagger's deck if I'm trying to protect a 3-player pod, but it's so much of it just feels like it gets handballed to, they have allies to block, so we don't need to explore that design space, really. And I think that maybe when the aspects focuses were more limited to their own thing, that was okay. But protection now has really good threat removal options where it didn't previously. I mean, aggression's got Moment of Triumph too, I guess. Like, there are some cards that exist, but I think that for how long the game's been out, there probably would be more if allies couldn't do what they do and defend.
Interesting.
But,
I've heard that argument before. I love allies. I don't really get the hate, but everything you said made sense. Yeah, I like how you tied it into sort of like the aspect part of it.
I can't remember which creator spotlight it was that I watched, but they encapsulated purposely. I don't play champs to feel like I'm the featuring act in a team up. Yeah. I want to feel like I'm the hero, and I just feel like with some allies, with how efficient they are and what they do sort of overshine some heroes. Specific cards like Squirrel Girl and Ground Stomp is a prime example of that. The cards cost exactly the same, have the same enter effect, but Squirrel Girl then also does an additional point of damage or thwart and then can block. It's like, okay, I love that for Squirrel Girl, but she's just here for my She-Hulk issue, but she's stealing all the spotlight right now. So, like,
Right.
I don't want to yuck other people's yum. I know a lot of people really like allies, and it's cool that for some of the characters that can't get a full set can have their allies and show up. But I think that if every ally in the game had its cost increased by 1, maybe we've got somewhere to start talking. I feel bad for Captain America, who's 7 cost at that point, but anyway.
No one's going to play Captain America. No one plays him now. No one's going to play him at 7. Okay, well that's interesting. I see it more of a you're only as powerful as your friends, and so it's the comic tradition of having your friends show up and interact. So I get the power argument for sure, 100%. Yes, some of them are ridiculous, and the whole chump blocking thing, which some scenarios sort of try to address, including one of my own, where it says that you get penalised if you do chump blocks. So yeah, I get that, but I wouldn't want them gone. I think they're an important part of the game.
Yeah, like I think if we're talking about that sort of stuff, when you look at this first scenario from Age of Apocalypse, and if you play that scenario with just a dedicated protection player and make it so that allies don't exist,
right,
where that scenario was sort of designed to make that happen, the scenario just doesn't work.
Right.
And like, I think that's probably where more so where I come from is they have to design so much stuff around these cards to punish them. But if you're already not playing them, then these other cards just don't do nothing. I think FFG is still trying to get that balance right between how do we punish this play style, but make it so it still works for other players. And
Got it.
hopefully they get there.
Yeah.
Because I think that once they get there and, we have, the opposite sides of the ally debate coming together and we both feel like it's not affecting our play styles and our game experiences, I think that's when we've hit a winner.
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah.
You're a wise man.
Oh, I wouldn't say that much. I've just played this game a lot.
And you are from Tassie.
Yeah, well, I mean, I can move at any point, right? But I'm still here, so what's that saying?
That's a joke that only fellow Australians will get. Cool. All right, I just love this. While you were talking, I just noticed this. We are Iron Man. I love this quote. Friday, get me on the Jaggers last location.
That was a card that the art got posted in the channel. I was like, I have to make this card.
That's great.
Yeah, I think the only thing I'd maybe change about that card now is maybe look at removing the resource icon from it so you can't discard it to generate resources. So like the only thing it does is its effect. Because it's really, really strong at higher player counts, which we knew going into it. Because originally the card was just play it, didn't really have a cost, apart from being in hero mode. And it was just, okay, this is getting too much. So then we added the discard. And I don't think it does enough to rein the card back, because throwing away someone's skilled investigator to then generate like 6 resources is quite good. But at the same time, it's Groot and an Iron Man helmet. How don't you want that in your deck?
Oh, you gotta have it for sure. 100%. That's absolutely right. Cool, awesome. All right. Have you made any customs for any other games?
None of it's published anywhere. Like I said, I play D&D with my in-person friends, so we've made custom items, custom subclasses, a custom class. It's a lot of stuff that people would look at and say, man, that's way too good. And then it's like, yeah, but you don't see how I DM.
Okay, fair enough. So you are the DM of the group, eh?
We all sort of DM and take it in turns. I'm, of all of us, probably the most forever DM, if that makes sense, for those who are in the know. But like, yeah, I'm the only one of us where we've had a campaign go to level 20 and then the characters, actually finish the campaign, and then we come back and do a couple of one-shots with like some epic levels and do some things.
Cool.
But yeah, like not that the other games haven't ended satisfyingly. It's just they get to a point where the DM's burnt out. They're like, yeah, look, while we had the idea for this to go to max level, we're just going to cut it at like 14, 15 and have fun there. So yeah.
Do you play any RPG other than D&D?
I played a little bit of Pathfinder. Like when I say a little bit, I think I played that for about a year in an ongoing one of the pirate theme modules. I can't quite remember what it was called, but that was pretty fun.
I've
played
or whatever it's called.
Yeah, that's the one. Then I played a little bit of Shadowrun 2E. We've played some Morkborg. Um, we move around a little bit, but we tend to default back to 5th edition just because it was the edition that came out when we were all in college and played, and now trying to relearn other games, we've got to be really invested to overcome that hump.
Oh man, you just made me feel so old. I started with 2nd edition, advanced D&D.
Advanced, yeah, you like you wanted to roll low in that one, right? If memory serves.
Yeah, you Thaco. The good old Thaco. Anyway, amazing. Cool. All right. Are there any creators or creations that have inspired you in your work?
So many that you can't really name them all.
Put the disclaimer in the front. It's like if I didn't mention someone, I still love you.
Yeah, that's right. I just didn't remember it specifically right now. But my favorite custom creation on the server is ES's Etrigan. Now,
wow.
It wasn't the first one that I played, but I think it was the first DC one that I played.
Okay.
And it was just I love being able to play Ant-Man without playing Ant-Man.
Sweet.
Because everything about that set, it just being able to play spells in AE and just feel like you are the two characters at odds with each other. It's just a really, really cool set.
Yeah. It's an excellent implementation of the whole hero alter ego side thing, where you're not just it's not just Spidey and Peter, and then Peter just runs away mid fight when he flips into alter ego. I'm like, what's this about? It's how I think it should be implemented, and when you've got a character that is like that, like a character who actually turns into a different character, it works perfectly. It's so good.
Yeah, my favorite example of the AE ability is when Ms. Marvel is trying to fight Ronan on Kree, and then, oh, sorry guys, I got to be home by dawn, so I'm just going to dip across the galaxy real quick.
Yeah.
It's my favorite one. When we had that come up in campaign mode, I lost it so, and then we lost the game afterwards, obviously, because it was Ronan.
Bloody Ronan. Cool. Anybody else?
I wouldn't necessarily say I have a favorite creation of his, but Rainey and I spend a lot of time designing together. Mostly just because we're both Australian, so being in the same time zone made it so that we could collaborate back and forth pretty well. And he's a really cool dude.
Is Rainey Australian?
Yeah, Rainey's Australian.
I didn't know that. Cool. That's awesome.
Sorry to dox you, Rainey, but
well, it's not. The whole country is not really doxing. It's not really doxing. Cool. Well, there you go.
Yeah. I really, really like Beretta's Huntress.
Sweet.
She's really cool.
Very cool.
Being the same sort of thing where you're able to play the game in alter ego still, because she's an assassin, so she's got ways to play attack events in AE, and that's a fun dynamic.
That's very cool. Yep.
Yeah, and in terms of like stuff that's inspired me, I haven't fully developed the set yet. It's sort of upcoming. Maybe in 3 years. We don't know when it's going to get it done, but Ripper's Omni-Man scenario.
Cool.
I took a look at that hero ability where the boosts reduce the attack instead of increasing it, and I thought this is perfect for Annihilus. That is capturing the negative zone theme so well.
Awesome.
That eventually I'm going to do something with that where like the control rod, when it's attached to him, treats him as blank, so he just hits like an absolute truck.
Yep.
But then you like take the control rod away and then like start adding amplifiers in, so his attack starts getting weaker when he doesn't have it, but then starts getting even stronger when he does. It's when that gets figured out, I think it'll be really fun. But that Omni-Man scenario is also just a really fun time if you like Invincible. I can't recommend it enough.
I'm going to throw in a creator question. So the mechanic has inspired you. Will you reach out to Rip and say, hey, I love this mechanic, can I use it in my creation? Or do you feel that mechanics are sort of fair game because you can't really copyright a mechanic sort of stuff?
I think it depends on how much you're taking from that scenario. Like, I think in combination with what that Omni-Man scenario, the story that it's telling, and with what's going on with the main scheme, once it would have been closer to release, if I hadn't announced it here, I would have asked Rip for permission to take that. But more so, it wouldn't be asking permission, because I'm notifying you that I think this is really cool and I'm stealing it. because like, stealing comes with that negative connotation that I don't really like. But
Yeah, yeah,
if your creation has gone on to inspire someone else to create, I think it's, as a community, we're really good at being able to say, oh, you've given me the credit. I think it's really cool that you've done something with that because I wouldn't have thought of taking it this route. And I think that's just something that, for anyone who just lurks and is thinking about, oh, I want to create stuff, but I'm worried about how other people are going to take it, just bite the bullet and jump in. I can't
yeah.
recommend enough how fun it is to engage with the community when you're actually a creator within it as well. It adds that whole extra step. And again, you start forming friendships with people that are across the world
Yeah.
just because you're playing a game that you love together and creating it. It's almost beautiful.
Awesome. I think it's for me. I think it's respectful to let them know. And it's like, hey, this mechanic's awesome. I've got an idea. Are you cool if I go ahead? And I can't think of anybody who would say no. I mean, it would be pretty weird.
The only example I can think of is Hacks with Determination, and that's completely understandable because that is a massive project that he has undertaken. And
Yeah,
like, he won't stop you from making a determination card, but he's definitely not going to publish it on his thing
yeah,
because, naturally, like, if someone made an armored card and they gave it to us and it was like, oh, you inspired me to make this thing. That's cool. We may or may not put it on the mod depending on where it's sitting balance wise.
yeah,
But we're never going to say, how dare you make that thing for our aspect? This is ours only. You kind of want to foster that creative environment because you never know if you give someone that feedback, that's the first thing they've made. And then they're like, oh man, the people who I wanted to share this with didn't really vibe with it. And now I don't want to create anymore. And
yeah.
you never want that to happen as a community. You always want to foster new people coming in and bringing their ideas because otherwise it just stagnates and eventually you lose that motivation to play the game.
I agree. Oh, words
Yeah.
of wisdom. Love it. Um, any other creations you want to mention?
None that like immediately come to mind.
Okay.
That's not to say that I haven't played a ton of great stuff, but it's very. Oh, I wouldn't say it's early in the morning. It's nearly afternoon now, but my brain does not function until we start hitting the PM. So nothing's immediately springing to my mind.
Well, that's. I mean, I think that's a perfect segue into my next question. Is so. Not only do you have your own creations and you've collaborated with other creators and stuff like that and made some awesome stuff, but one of the things that you like to contribute to the community in is play testing other people's stuff. So you actually, I mean, you even went so far as to broadcast to the community. It's like, I'm here to help. If you have an idea and you want me to play test it and give you some advice and stuff, hit me up. And that's amazing. That's an amazing. I mean, we all say that we're here to help, but you've actually made it part of your thing. Like it's like people know that if they have something that they're sort of struggling with and they need some advice, that you are there for them. What made you decide to do that? And how often does that sort of happen? Like how involved have you been with some stuff?
Okay, so that started before I'd started making my own stuff. But when I first joined the server full time, first two sets that I played were Scorp's Hulkling and Rainey's Jane Foster, which was completely coincidental that they have basically the same core design loop where you have a double resource weapon that you bring to your hand every turn. But I reached out to both of them before I was actually on the server, and I was just like, hey, look, I just let you know that I played your thing. I had a really fun time doing it. Here are a couple of things that maybe I'd look at tweaking based on the play experiences I've had with them, because I didn't just play them the once, I played them like maybe 4 or 5 times before I reached out, because when you're on the outside looking in, you don't understand how approachable the community is. So like I sent that out expecting, oh, they're busy people, they're not going to message me back at all or say anything. And then Scorp got back to me and was like, oh, I'm really glad that you played this. I'll take this feedback on board. Did you want to try and get a game in at some point?
Cool.
And I was like, yeah, absolutely. And then, from there, got the foot in the door. Scorp really pushed me to because originally I didn't intend to publish anything that I ever made. It was only ever going to be for me and my playgroup. But he was like, look, I think what you've done here is good enough that it would probably pass the ceiling thing with Scar at that point. That was when the council was still around. And I was like, look, I don't know that I'd ever go that route, but it's good to know that you think that the thing that I've made is of a high enough quality to go through that step. So from there, it just sort of, mostly it was just ES had talked to Scorp about something, and Scorp would talk to me about it and show it to me, and then I'd be like, okay, well, here are the changes that I would make to that set. Then Scorp would put it onto ES, and ES would say, oh, thanks, that was really great. Then we sort of all got the group chat going, and it just sort of ballooned from there. I, when it comes to like designing with Rainey, he'll always talk to me before the set's published and say, here's what I've got. Let's play it a few times, make sure that we've got it going so that I know that it's ready for prime time for when I post it. And it's always really fun to see what he comes up with. Sometimes I'll maybe throw in a design for a card or two if he's not necessarily not having ideas, but isn't sure of what way to take something. But it's always a fun collaborative experience working with him. And yeah, it just, once we sort of got through all of that, Scorp had me join the council, so I was on there for Winter Soldier and Mandarin, I think, were the only two sets that got released before the council folded. And then after that, it was kind of just like, well, now I don't have a dedicated thing that I need to test as intensively as I would test those things. So I just sort of, as people would trickle me stuff, I didn't really advertise it until now, but there's been a decent amount of sets that I've worked on that you've probably played that a lot of people like. That
you helped bring to life.
Yeah, I wouldn't say that I brought them to life, but I sanded off that last rough edge.
Cool.
For something that the creator like maybe was just slightly overlooking, or that like it's. I sort of made the joke before. It's always easy to come in once the set's 90% done and you say, oh, just make that one change. And then they go, oh, you're a genius. It's like, no, you got it all the way there. It was just making a set is a very involved thing. And sometimes you do overlook that one card interaction with an aspect card, or the wording on this is set up. Your intent is one. That's one thing I always make sure I do when I'm providing feedback. What is your intent with this set? Are you intending to make a Superman who is incredibly strong, or have you accidentally, in trying to make maybe a street level hero, through the effects made them a Superman? Because they're two very different problems you've got to solve. If I know that you're making a strong set, I got to, okay, the set is intended to be strong. Am I maybe feeling like I'm not contributing as much as you think I should be with how these cards are statted? Because it's a really hard problem to sort of look at. It's like, is this card too strong when you're reading it, and it does seem strong? But it's very important that you get that feel across that the creator wants to make, and like make it so you're both coming from halfway and compromising and are happy, rather than the creator feeling like, oh, well, you've given me all this feedback and the set's just not going to be what I wanted it to be when I send it to you now.
I think it's awesome. People like you and Nashman and Bubblegum and that actually like intentionally sort of try to help creators as much as they can, using their time and stuff. It's amazing. I think it's awesome. I'm going to throw you something at some point in the future. Get your opinion on it.
Absolutely. I wanted to have a look beforehand, but obviously we ran into that little thing that we ran into that I won't publicly broadcast. But that was unfortunate. I haven't been there myself.
It is what it is. No, that's fine. We can talk about it. I deleted. Just don't do this, people. Don't do this.
Actually, you're right. We need to get it out there so people don't make this same mistake.
I ran out of space on my Steam cloud. Is limited to 9,999 files, and I kept hitting that limit and like deleting stuff to sort of get rid of stuff, and eventually I just cracked it. Right, I don't have the best patience limit in the world, and so but after months of trying to deal with it, I just went full on like nuclear war and just deleted the entire thing, made like a local backup of it. I've still got my local backup, and then deleted the Steam cloud. Now what that has done is it's reduced the size, which is great, but it's now because everything's just local, anything on my mod that is not already now re-uploaded to the Steam cloud doesn't load properly, and it's hideous and horrible, and I have to now reload everything. But at least the bonus, I guess the only real bonus, is I now can reload it neater, because the reason it sort of ran out of space is because when you create a card in TTS and have like the image for it, it uploads a version of that image. But if you then slightly change that image, if you're doing testing and you change that image, when you change that card, it uploads a new version of that image, because it's now a different copy as far as it's concerned. And it just sort of sometimes you end up, as I did, with like 8 copies of the same card that's slightly different from each one because of playtesting you've done. So I can avoid that now because most of those sets are already complete. I can just go and re-upload and redo them and fix it up. So there you go. I'm happy to tell people my tales of woe. That's fine. Learn from my mistakes.
That's right. It's because I had the same thing happen. I didn't delete my Steam Cloud library, but I launched TTS when it was mid cloud sync and told it to stop, and that caused all of my card files. Well, not all of them, but most of them got corrupted. So I had to then go and re-upload everything again. And that was like, my content library, thankfully, is fairly small.
Cool.
So I didn't have to upload a lot of stuff.
Yeah.
But man, it's still just such a time-consuming process.
Well, I've known about this problem for a while, and I haven't done it yet. Let me just. Yeah. I mean, I'm not exactly burning. I mean, my main focus at the moment is the campaign that I'm working on, but I don't want to face it. I don't want to face the problem. Like, you sent me the screenshot, and I was like, because it doesn't look like that for me, obviously, right? Because I've got all the local.
No, yeah, because you've got all your stuff cached, obviously. Fine, yeah.
But I've just every now and again I'll play like a game, with some big members of the community, and I'll load my deck, and they'll be like, "Hey, wait a minute, what's wrong with your deck? Like, it's got no backs or something, just something wacky or something. It'll just look weird," and it's like, oh, it's just so embarrassing. So I'll get to it at some point, I swear. But my focus at the moment is getting the campaign out there so people can play. But and doing these spotlights and stuff. So one day when I'm not being lazy. All right. So is there anything that we haven't talked about that you've got a note? I know you've got notes. Is there a note for something we haven't talked about that you want to bring up?
No, that was that pretty much covered everything that I'd had written down. Maybe the only other thing I'd want to say, like, it probably has to do with like offering feedback to people.
Cool.
I know that the sealing process is mostly anonymous these days, but I do think that it would be cool if people could, if they're comfortable, say who's offering the feedback. Having gone through the process twice, sometimes it can be pretty tough to determine, like, how should I take this feedback based on your experience level as a creator. It can be, because, like, not to say that some people might come in and not know what the game's going on. That's not what I'm saying. But, like, you want to try and produce the thing closest to your design vision when you're given feedback.
Yeah.
To what people are happy to sort of play with and what they think the appropriate power level is. And it gets very difficult when they're saying, "Oh, you've got all these problems," where you've like, that was kind of like the point. Like, Bane's, when it came back, was very, the feedback I got for that was very paradoxical.
Yeah.
Some people said, I think it's really cool that his deck building goes in a bunch of different ways and that he's got all these complex mechanics. I think it's capturing the theme well. And then the next comment could be like, it doesn't feel like Bane at all. All the cards are way too complicated. Set's crap. Go back to the drawing board. Restart it all. And like,
surely
all of
they
it
didn't say the word set's crap. See, that's unacceptable.
I don't want to say that wasn't the exact wording, but there was definitely one person who gave me just a lot of low scores and no like feedback.
Sure, but you don't cross the line and say this sucks. You might as well kill yourself. I mean, that's when the line's being drawn.
I mean, they didn't say kill yourself, but they definitely said, like, what have you done here? And I was like, okay, like, I know that as a creator that what I've designed is not necessarily for everyone.
Yeah.
But I've also got to sort of look back at both of my releases, because work's been so hectic and life just gets in the way. Yeah. I haven't posted the preamble of like what my design philosophy for that set was beforehand. So part of it's on me, 100%. But I think it's always important that when you're going to offer that feedback to someone, that you come from a place of collaboration, not criticism. Okay. Like, it could be constructive criticism, And if something is like, you should always try and point out to someone what they've done well,
Yes.
because there's no way that when they've made something, there is nothing of merit in that set. That is simply not true. And if you look at a set that way and say, I don't think there's anything that this has to offer, this creator hasn't done anything, maybe just take a sec, think of how hard this person's worked on it. They've clearly had enough passion to go out, make this thing, and put it in the hands of the general public. Just come with a little bit more of I think this could be improved. Here's how I think it can be improved specifically, because there's nothing worse than when someone comes back and says, I don't like the set, but I don't think there's anything I'm not going to provide you with any basis of where to start looking to make changes.
Yeah,
Because
I'm going to say I actually don't agree with everything you just said, and I'll touch on that in a second. But
yeah, that's fine.
I do totally agree with, though, is the last thing you just said. Yeah, 100%. Yeah, I completely agree with that one.
You can take the floor. It's your show.
Oh no, it's not this. I'm not a fan of participation prizes, right? So everybody should be praised, even in the smallest amount, because at least they made an effort. That's bollocks. If something is bad, then something needs to be pointed out that it is bad. But the reason I then agree with your other stuff is how you approach this, right? I mean, have some empathy. Somebody has put a lot of effort, and it's not like we're working in the mines or curing cancer or anything. We're making Marvel Champions cards, right? I get it, right? But still, it's part of them. When you create something, you put part of yourself into that creation, right? It's an act of love in a way, right? You have put something into the world that is part of you, and you are now sharing it with other people. And there's anybody who takes the opportunity to then stomp on that person, I just don't want to have anything to do with them. You're dead to me, right? It's just because you don't have to say that it's great just because you don't want to hurt someone's feelings. If something's bad and needs to be improved, I know exactly. That's why I agreed with the second part of what you said. So if something's bad and needs to be improved, then that needs to be said, right? It's like this needs to be improved.
Yeah,
but what you said, what I think you said touches on it perfectly. Is there's no way you can look at something that someone's created and say that all of it is bad. There is no merit in anything that's happened here. You just can't do that. You can't do that, because it's not right. It's just not right as a fellow human being to treat somebody that way. But also because it's just not possible. There has to be something. There has to be something that you can touch on and then work on from there. Yeah, there you go. I think that some of the problem with the thing that you started this whole thing with I think you should identify who you are. That's an interesting point. It's at one part of me is glad that it's anonymous, because then it can't really create sort of bad feelings. But also part of me is agreeing with you in that, well, maybe it shouldn't be anonymous, because for some strange reason, and I think it's an internet problem, is that when you are anonymous, for some reason you suddenly lose all your empathy. It's
100%. 100%.
What's caused that? It's crazy. It's just anything you wouldn't say, you now feel free to say because it can't come back to you. That's ridiculous. Like, you don't say anything if you're not willing to put your name to it.
I want to preface this next point by saying that, like, Kami has an absolutely impossible job.
Yeah.
In trying to have the sealing process cater to everyone. That's part of the reason that the council folded originally, is that trying to get everything to work with that many people, we basically needed to try to employ someone to be like the director of the council or the CEO of it.
Right.
And we're all doing this as a hobby for fun. No one wants to take on that amount of work.
Yes.
And that sort of, I won't go into the specifics, but that sort of thing did happen, where there was a creator who felt that the council was too much of a boys' club, and that because they weren't part of it, their stuff wasn't being looked at properly, which was absolutely not the case.
Right.
But it just caused so much strain on us trying to get that sort of across, and in combination with all the workload, that's why the whole thing just sort of, we went, no, this is it. When none of us are now having fun playing Champions, and that is a core problem that we have to remove.
That's fair.
And unfortunately, the only way we found at the time was to shut down the council, stop that process. And then Kami came in and revitalized the server in a lot of ways, which the work that he's done has been absolutely incredible.
Oh, amazing job. Kami's a legend.
Like, yeah, so, like, I'm not having a go at Kami or anything when I say that I feel like, I'm not saying that the process isn't good.
Yeah.
But I do think that there needs to be real thought put into, like, maybe we have a section that is anonymous feedback and then a separate section where people have disclosed who they are. So that way you can look at it and say, okay, these people have told me who they are. I can go and have a look, see what the stuff they've made is, see how active they are in the community to see how much stock I should put into the feedback that they've given. Whereas the people who maybe still want to give it anonymously for whatever reason to try and avoid those conflicts, they can still provide it, but then the creator's got the option to say, well, you weren't willing to go out on a limb and tell me who you were and, like, why I should listen to you, so maybe that feedback isn't as weighted as heavily. I don't know.
Can I offer an alternative?
Absolutely.
Can we have like a middle? Can we have a middle ground? Keep the surveys anonymous, but have a disclaimer there saying, if you would like to further discuss this with the creator on a one-on-one basis, please reach out to them and let them know and have that discussion. Like, this creator has indicated that they are willing to receive personal one-on-one feedback. Please reach out to them, and have like a tick box or something. What do you think? Because that's that's similar to how Kaz does it, which I quite like. I quite like that. So after the surveys are done, he'll say, anybody who wants to reach out to me and sort of provide some feedback, and so we sort of discuss it, and I can then discuss my design philosophy. You touched on something earlier where you said I hadn't put my sort of design philosophy, sort of a design idea up first, and so therefore that was my fault. That's interesting. That fascinates me, because that sort of follows into sort of, because I don't bother doing that at all, ever, right? I just put it out there and see what happens. Whereas Kaz is more along the lines of, hey, if I can explain why I've done what I've done, and then we can have a discussion about it, are you open to that? So I think we can sort of incorporate that a bit.
And I think that's where you get the most... That's where that collaborative experience becomes as good as it could possibly be, when you are sort of offering forth, like, it's fine to not say this was the reason, because a lot of people who play it, they probably won't care. But I think specifically when you're going for, I'm trying to get this content sealed, I think that becomes absolutely critical information, because I don't know why this would ever happen, but say someone's put up a joke set and someone comes in it and they're like, why are all these cards, like, so insanely strong, and they're doing this and that, and why does this one card say that you, like, win the game and you give each other player a wedgie type thing? But, like,
well, isn't that just the pool aspect?
Sorry. I mean,
that was my deep burn.
Is the pool aspect even an aspect with how limited its card pool is? God, that's the real question we got to ask ourselves. I've got to mention that the potential to have the fifth aspect added to the game when you've got something as high quality as what Hax has made in Determination, and they give us pool.
Just put Determination in there. He's putting more effort than they have, the official ones. Oh, the pool aspect.
There are only 4 aspects in the game. There is aggression. There is justice, there is protection, and there is determination. Leadership doesn't exist, it can't hurt you.
What? How dare you, sir?
Oh, sorry, clarity of purpose does exist, but one card does not make an aspect.
Make the Calls one of the greatest cards ever made. Dude.
Look, as a black player, I love Graveyard Recursion. I do not understand why Maria is the biggest zombie in Marvel Champions history.
I can't believe he said
that. But anyway, like, I just think, like, as probably the last point for the discussion, like, I think it's really cool what you've done for the creators here in your Spotlight series.
Oh, thank you. You don't have to say that.
Like I told you, when I watched Scorps and ESs the other day, I got a bit emotional, because
that was so amazing.
You don't understand how much something impacts your life until someone puts a mirror up to you and says, just reflect on this for 5 minutes. Just think about what's going on. And like, where I was at my life when I first started getting into content creation to where I am now, I could see the impacts that going through this system has, like, caused me to change how I conduct myself in my day-to-day life. Like, I used to be really in my shell and locked up, and I'd have days where you couldn't get out of bed and wonder,
Wow.
why am I still here?
Mm.
But just having someone who would take the time to say, hey, I think this thing you made, it might just be for a hobby, but it was really, really cool and it has value.
That's cool.
And the fact that you're willing to put yourself out there and create for other people to play the game is really, it's to be commended. And it's completely changed how I conduct myself. Well, for starters, it helped me get employed in the first place.
Wow.
But yeah, it was just a really, I didn't expect to have that reaction to it when I watched it, but it was very oh damn, okay. But I think that's the main reason why I like giving the feedback to people is you're taking the time to make something for me and my hobby to play with. The least I can do is try and give you a way to make it as good as it can possibly be as a way to give back to that person. And I think this community is absolutely incredible. And I'm looking forward to being able to get reinvested now that it looks like things have sort of started to take a turn for the better again. So, yeah.
Thank you very much for saying that. When you reached out to me and told me that, it blew me away. It really made my day. It's part of the reason that I do this is I want to sort of give back to the community in a way, and also I just want to get to know the community a bit better. I mean, there's quite a few creators on there, and it's my way to get to know you more as a person and sort of why you do and get inspired. I mean, every time I do one of these, I'm just re-inspired yet again. Every time I do one, and it's just it's amazing, and hearing the sort of different philosophies and the different opinions and why you do what you do and all sort of stuff. But getting to know you through this process has been just amazing. I mean, I said in the intro just how beloved you are in the community. I just don't think you realize just how beloved you are.
It was very humbling. So I appreciate the comment, but the thing that I find the most strange, how did we not cross paths beforehand?
Well, yeah, I don't think you were really that big you were, so you sort of took a step away. You said you sort of moved.
Yeah, but
and
I know that
that period, I think. Because you were there, you're an OG. You're there from the beginning. The Tinkerer Council and all that, the council and all this stuff, and the deep lore.
It took me a little while to sort of get in. So I think I started in 21, so I wasn't original, but I was the last of the old guard, I guess you'd say.
Okay, that's a cool title.
So but yeah, I know that you said on Scorps that he gave you his design files for what he had for Hellstorm to when you were making yours. And I remember that I had that conversation with Scorp where he was like, hey, someone else has sort of reached out to make this thing. Do you have any interest in taking a look at it at some point, for what Scorp had before he gave it to you? And I was like, if you're not going to make it, that's cool, there you go. But I didn't know that was you until I started watching these. And then I just thought man, we've got Scorp, we've got Hacks, we've got ES. There's just so many people here in this creator space that the fact that we never really sort of connected beforehand, I thought was a bit mind blowing. It just goes to show that despite being the small, what I think to be a relatively small, tight knit community, there's always more people out there that you can meet and that can enhance the experience of being a part of the community and what you make with each other. It's really, really cool. Yeah. So
I think part of it is because I'm too scared to play Beast on screen. I've attempted to play Beast every now and again because, I mean, like I said, he's so beloved. He's sealed and everybody thinks he's just the bee's knees. And every now and again I've gone to play him and I'm just I'm too dumb to understand how to play this character. I just can't figure it out. And I'm one of those. And I'm not dumb, let's be honest. I'm actually pretty smart. But what it is I don't want to bother trying to think too hard about what I should be doing to the character to make sure I don't make any mistakes while I'm playing a game that is full of mistakes anyway. I just think it sort of distracts from the experience. I want to play and have fun and not have to think too hard. There's been a couple of aborted attempts where I've gone to play Beast and I was just what am I missing from this? What am I just not grasping from this? Which is why when we first were talking about BC, this very spotlight, I was like, okay, explain this mechanic to me. And that was really my way of saying, Hainz3y,
help me play the hero.
I'm too dumb to play this character. Please help me play this character. That's really what it was. And so now that I've got that info, maybe I'll be able to figure it out. We'll see how it goes. But if I had done that, then I would have then of course tagged you in the video, and then you would have seen it. And so I think we would have interacted a lot sooner if I'd been brave.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. I had played thin. I should have played thin on the stream. I don't know why I didn't. I've learned that just recently. Because I play more than is actually streamed and stuff. It's just because.
Yeah, absolutely. Because if you only played when you were on stream, then it doesn't become a hobby, does it?
I know. I'm barely streaming. It's just the thing is when you stream and record, there's a certain personality that you use, right? I'm not saying that I'm being fake.
That's right.
Like this is clearly me, but it's slightly different. So because of the rules of Twitch and the rules of YouTube and all that sort of stuff. Like someone actually said to me in the game yesterday, I was playing a game yesterday, and with the Hainz3y2 was part of the group, and he was like, I'm actually really shocked because I've played with you before, but it was on stream, and you were calm and you were funny and you're engaging and all that sort of stuff, right? Like your stream stuff. But in this game, you've every second word's been a swear word. You're really emotional at one point, and it's just you're really fired up. I like this version of you. And I was like, well, both versions are me. I just one has to follow rules and the other one doesn't. I'm just here with a group of friends. Like Bubblegum was there, and I was just like, now I'm just going to be myself, and I do swear a lot. So, unfortunately, that's part of it.
Oh, well, you're Australian, mate. That's to be expected.
I know, that's exactly right. That's to be expected.
Every second word is either an F or an C, and that's how we communicate with each other. And normally the people that you call those things are not the people you'd expect.
We'll end it on here, but I was actually going to intro this video with how you doing, you bloody bastard.
Yep, I was. That's how I was going to respond, and I was just like, I've got to think where this is going to go. Do I want that to be some people's first experience with me?
And I know you would have gotten it. You would have gotten it straight away. You wouldn't have been offended. Yeah. But I'm just. Most of the audience is the rest of the community, right? And most of the rest of the community are not Australian, right? Which I was so shocked
that's
to
right.
hear that Rainy is. So it would have been. People would have been like, "What?" That's
right. We've got a very strange way of talking to each other down here, but I absolutely love it. And everyone who I've interacted with, when you get to be the full version of yourself, they always seem to gravitate to it as well. I don't know if it's just I've just gelled with those sorts of people, but it's.
It's the Aussie way.
Come to Australia. You'll have a good time.
We'll show you around. Unfortunately, it means you'll have to go to Tassie if you want to meet Hainz3y, but it is what it is.
Don't worry. Maybe I can get across on the spirit if it's here by the time. It's complete local reference that maybe no one will get. But hey, if you're on your way over from Ireland, feel free to stow away on a boat.
The spirit of Australia is actually pretty cool. Well, at least it used to be. Come here. We'll show you around. We'll go on a pub crawl and show you the meat pie and all that sort of crap. So it's anyway. So like I said, we'll finish out there. Hainz3y, it's been an absolute pleasure talking to you, bro. It's been absolutely amazing.
Likewise, I've had a great time. So
Cool. All right. Well, you heard the man. If you've got for the link in there'll be a link in the description for the Discord. If you want to join the community and you have some ideas and you're not quite sure a bit, reach out to Hainz3y. He will help you out. It's amazing. He's got a heap of wisdom, as you heard in the spotlight. He's got a lot of wisdom. And he's got a lot of background in that sort of stuff, and obviously knows his stuff. So you couldn't do any better. Just reach out and he'll help you out, which is amazing. I'm going to do the same thing. I haven't done it before, but I will now. I'm going to take advantage of the service.
I can't wait. It's purely selfish as well. It's a great way to get people to send you high quality stuff, so you don't have to scroll through the server to find it.
which helps. Cool. So as usual, please like, subscribe, all that sort of stuff, and leave a comment if you're enjoying the creator spotlights. Please let me know. I love doing them. I mean, I'll keep doing it. Even if you don't enjoy them, I'm going to keep doing them. I don't care. I enjoy it. But if you got any feedback for that sort of stuff, by all means, reach out, say hello to Hainz3y. I'm sure he'd love it. And as always, the most important thing is to make sure that you tell the people that you love them as often as you can, and that includes yourself. Thank you very much, Hainz3y. You've been a champion. And thank you, everybody, for us who's listening. Take care.